Is that right?
Yeah.
Action. All right, guys, Kyle.
Sarah.
And you know that because you are at our website or our Facebook, one of the two.
Today is about pulsing. So all you're going to need is a place that you can pulse your body. If you're in a chair, okay. If you can stand up, even better. If you've got a partner, we're going to layer that into the last 10 minutes. So for the first portion of this workshop, you're going to be working solo.
Yeah, so don't be afraid of, if you do have a partner, we will get to you guys in just a second, but do some individual work for yourselves right now, yeah?
So, whoa.
You're right there?
Yeah, a frog jumped out of magical.
Sarah's not doing well over here.
Oh, my straightener broke today, okay? My hair, I got it dyed. I did the spray tan. I got all ready. I'm getting ready to watch some special people do some special things. And I need to look good. And my straightener broke. So this is why I'm off, okay? But we'll fix it.
I knew something was wrong.
WestCoastSwing.
You look fine, baby.
So I noticed we're both wearing...
Oh, our Floridans.
Our Floridans.
Yeah.
JT Swing, you like these shoes? You can go get them there.
I think it's JT.
We love them.
I think it's JT Swing Shoes.
It's not hard to find them. They're bosses and they're our friends, so go get their shoes, okay? All right, so we're moving forward to pulsing.
Pulsing.
Now, check this out. I know most of you, when you think of pulsing, well, I guess I don't know really what you think, but my guess would be that when I think of pulsing, I just think of like a little bounce, right? But when you talk about West Coast Swing, I think a lot of people will start to relate that to their triple pulse, right? I mean...
Is that a question?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, okay.
I'm baiting you, Kyle.
Who's
fish off today?
Hook in and go?
Yeah.
All right. So for me, pulsing is not something that we do just in the vertical. There's pulse everywhere in the dance, and I try and make myself musical wherever the energy of what it is I'm doing is moving to. So we're going to try and layer this through the body and give you some visual concepts to deal with, plus some drills and skills that you can work on your own. So
this is your mission this week.
First is understanding what it is we're pulsing, whether we're going down or we're going up. And I think music will dictate how we feel music hitting our body and how we want to respond to that action. I remember growing up, the hip hop and the R&B music that I would listen to had a different look than the popular music movement and the rock and roll music that I saw. So, you know, I'd see rock and roll and it would be very like forward in its pulse. You'd see people headbanging, those kind of things. And then when I looked over at the popular music, it was a little more poppy up and down.
Oh, like pop?
And then I saw in the R&B side of stuff, it had a very back action in its movement for its pulse.
Which is my favorite.
So one of the things that we use more often, I think, is the popular music side and the R&B music side. So forward pulse is not going to be something we're going to be using too much, and I'm not going to work on that today at all because I think it looks a little strange in the dance when we're, yeah!
I mean...
that would be a little strange.
I'm sure it can be done.
But my goal for you is
hopefully somebody makes it a point to make it look cool.
Is to get you guys in a place where you understand that the pulse will navigate. So don't just lock it into one direction. Learn to see where the flow of movement or energy is going within your body and try and give that a pulsing action. And I'll give you the skills for that, yeah?
Is it time for them to stand up or can they do this part in their chair? Get up.
They can be doing this with us. Yeah, because one of the things that we would do chair work for is if you find yourself doing the actions and it becomes very leg oriented.
Hold on, can I just say something? I know I'm not going to get a lot of fans.
What if I say no?
I know I'm not going to get a lot of fans right now. But listen, if you're injured and you have to sit on a chair or you have to sit on a chair for work, I'm all about those chair exercises.
Oh, I work in my car all the time.
But if you're sitting in a chair because you don't want to stand up during an exercise, you don't want to exercise. Listen, you don't want to practice if you're just going to sit there and be like, yeah, I'll try it here. No. Come back and do this later and watch it recorded, because the biggest thing is like your commitment of what you're going to experience out of it yourself. And I think lots of times there's this hard disconnect with us, with you over there and us through this little screen, that sometimes I think during our workshops, I literally like kick them in the butt. Are you okay?
Oh, I'm just looking at Kyle to make sure everything's good.
So I definitely think if you're being lazy right now, you should stand up, okay? Go ahead.
Are we ready? All right, so wherever you are, stand up, join us. Now, one of the things we want to do, just so you can notice what you're doing with this movement, if you pulsed into your knees, and we're thinking down, down, down. This is something we want to remove from our dance. Now let's go compression into our knees, and let's go up, up, up. Another way that we would want to kind of avoid doing this action, because sometimes the simple things of like tap steps will give us that vertical action and pulse in our body without having to compress both legs. So make sure that when we're doing this, you're paying attention to the little nuances of changes within the pulse structure that we're going to be talking about. Yeah? So let's work on the first one, which is our vertical. And I want to do this with one leg posted. So do me a favor, pick whichever leg is you're more dominant. So to me, my right leg is my dominant pulsing leg. So I'm going to stand on my left foot. All right? So wherever you're at, do that with me. Now next what I want to do is I want to, instead of bouncing my leg forward, I want to think of my knee slightly bent already.
Do you want footwork for you yet?
Not yet. I think we're okay here. They can see that the leg is kind of lifted. Now at this point, as I drop the heel to the ground, I go to straighten the leg. That's going to drive energy up my body. So I'm going to get a slight lift every time this happens. Okay, so now it's not because I'm sitting in my hip and I'm down to the ground this way that I'm getting this vertical lift. I'm standing on top of the hip, and as I pulse the knee back, just that mild amount of energy change in my hip line pushing up into my core is going to give me a soft pulse up. How many of you have social danced with maybe a top-level pro and you could feel their internal pulse through the connection? This is probably what you're feeling. You're feeling that soft energy that resonates through the connection into yourself. So what we want to be able to do is have a mild amount of movement that does allow itself to filter into the connection. So whether you're a leader or a follower, you can really help out your partnership by giving them an idea of where your body is feeling the movement or feeling the energy from the song, all right? So when we do this, we want to think soft pulse with the knee, post the left leg a little bit, soften the right knee, let the heel come up off the ground. Now push it down to the ground and then let it recover. So we're going to think down, 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 down. Or if you need to think of that as back with the knee, those both are the same actions. I'm not even necessarily thinking down with the heel. I'm more or less maybe thinking back with the knee, so it has a recovery forward, yes? For those of you that take Robert's Sunday Science, there's a collagen rebound thing that I think Robert has talked about, especially in the early stages of this, where the knee wants to recover back forward naturally. Kind of like when you're walking, the leg strikes, but then as we go over the top of the leg, that recovery action is something that's built into the dance. So from here, we want to make sure that we're allowing our knee to get to the end of itself, but then not hold it there for a second, then relax it. We want that pulse to happen that recovers, almost like I'm bouncing a ball. So that pulse should have a bouncing feel to it, yeah? But not through the body, more or less through the knee right now. The residual energy will be in the body.
And the reason why we're talking about that, because we're also going to get to pulse and connection towards the last end of this. So right now, you really want to be isolating this in your lower half as much as possible. There will be some residual, but you shouldn't be adding to that, like Kyle said. Cool?
All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and turn my back to you guys for a second. You can still hear me. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and put everybody on their left side, and I'm going to switch weight after we do this. So we're going to think, we're going to pulse, we're going to switch weight. We're going to pulse, we're going to switch weight, we're going to pulse, switch weight, pulse, switch weight.
Pause right there.
Pulse and stop.
Kyler, can you go to the sideways overhead for us? Sideways overhead. Cool. Let's do that again. At an angle. Go ahead, babe.
Ready?
They can't see how much you're switching.
Weight's on the left side of the body. We're going to pulse and switch. Pulse and switch. Pulse and switch. Pulse and stop.
So what you're not seeing is a compression and lift.
Remember, we didn't say both legs, did we?
Right. So this is just in the free leg, yeah? So we want to be able to isolate that in the free leg. And then the weight change is not going to happen from the hips. The weight change is going to happen from your head weight. Cool?
All right, last
Here
time.
we go.
Weight's on the left side. We're going to pulse the knee, switch the weight. Pulse the knee, switch the weight. Pulse the knee, switch the weight, and pulse and stop right there.
How's everybody doing? Not that I need you to stop and type, but just in case somebody is.
Now, next is understanding that pulse is not the only in the vertical way, but it has multiple different dimensions. The same way that we talk about the dance having multiple different dimensions. It has length, it has width, it has height, it has rotation, it has time. So do our pulse structures. So we can take all the pulsing that we're doing within this vertical point and we can give it a rotational sense. So let's do that next. So we're going to think rotate as we pulse. So instead of thinking of off of the foot, pulse, and rotate all in one, we're only going to do one element at a time. And we'll get to how those things blend in just a second. But for right now, I want to think of pulsing my left shoulder forward and my right shoulder forward. So pulse left forward, right forward.
Kyler, go overhead.
Now when we think of doing this, and now you're overhead, watch for a second. When I do this, I'm not stopping the action, then bringing it back, and then stopping the action and bringing it back. I'm thinking pulse forward and it recovers. 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 Now, that has a different feel than if I were going to take that same action and go backwards. If I was going to pulse back and then back to normal. Where a lot of you right now, if you do them in the center, it may feel a little bit too, they might feel too close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I need you to organize which one does what. So forward pulse versus backward pulse is relative to the hinge point in your body.
So the recovery is the difference. So the action isn't the same intention both ways. There's a pulse and recovery. It's very much like if you were stretching that rubber band out and then it relaxed, and you stretch and relax, but you still hold tension with it as you do that.
Remember, sometimes you might know these things or do them naturally, but you may not be in the position where you've organized them in your mind of how to control them. So that's what we're aiming for today, yeah? So let's start with our forward pulses again. So when we do this, think of the left side of the body pulsing forward to the recovery and giving it that bounce feel. So let's do it again. Let's go bounce forward, bounce forward, bounce forward, and bounce forward. Stop right there. Let's do the right side now. We're going to go forward, 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 forward. Let's switch to the left side now. We're going back this time. We're going to think back, back recovery, back and recovery, back and recovery. And let's do it on the right side now. Right side, we're going to go back to recover, back to recover, back to recover, and back to recover. Now, I will feel that some of this energy will flow differently through my body. So if I'm going backwards, it might have a counter in the hip. If I'm going forward, it might have a counter behind me in my hip. So remember, the body will have to adjust for the weight that's coming in and out of itself relative to where you push the energy. Just remember to look for how you find the pulse to be something you can continue for a second.
Something I do want to make note of, followers, that I've really been making myself aware of as I'm doing my lessons and coaching everybody online is the implement of what the part of the follow does. Because even though the leaders in their pulse, once we get connection, will start to feel that initiation to the rebound, many times our rebound folds over very quickly into what's next. So I find that my rebounds tend to be blending into powering. So make sure that right now, as you're practicing these rebounds and you're coming back to the center, that you're still slightly engaged, that you're not just pulsing, relaxing. I want that pulse to control. Cool?
Yeah? All right. So last time with rotation. So we're going to think forward first with the left side. Ready? And pulse forward, recover, forward, recover, forward, recover, forward, and stop there. Let's do right side now. Forward, recover, forward, recover, forward, recover, and stop right there. Back left side, ready, go. Back, 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 stop. Right side, go. Back, 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 and stop there.
Some of you wondering if you're using your lat, is it engaged? Yes, but you are not pulling down. So I'm not wanting you right now to pull back and down. We're wanting you just to squeeze those rhomboids, squeeze that muscle back. So I'm engaging my entire back right now. But more importantly is I'm pulsing my right shoulder blade. I'm not looking at pulling down. Cool?
Yeah, and it doesn't feel isolated. It's not like, Kyla, can you go over the head for just one time for me? So it's not like I'm just taking my right shoulder that's right here. I'm not taking this and just moving it. The whole body is creating that pulsing. So if you can see through the overhead view that it's not an isolated action, it's a movement through the body into the shoulder. Yeah? Go ahead and bring it back around, bud.
Can I say, followers, this is something I really pay attention to when I'm dancing with a leader. I watch how much rotation is being implemented. I watch where the pulse is being generated and dissipated from. That tends to create the look of a partnership really quickly and puts us in sync on that underlying foundational way that sometimes just puts a dance over the top.
So for me, as we start learning this and we start adding this to music, or you start adding it to music, because we don't use music here just in case we get kicked off.
But Kyler is making us tunes.
He is. But what I want you guys to realize is that the pulse on an odd beat is going to have a different resonating energy than a pulse on a even beat. And in our dance, we tend to push our movement into the even. So think of like a triple step. It goes odd and even, take your time, odd and even to take your time, right? So if you can learn that the resolving energy of the even beat will have like a longer residual action a lot of times, especially when doing triples, it helps us with organizing time, yeah? So next, we've got the same thing that we did with length, or with height, we did with rotation. Now we're gonna do within length of our body and width in our body, yeah? So if you can, turn kind of sideways to the screen for a second, and we're gonna think of both parts of the body, both the left and the right side. This is the one I was saying was kind of a weird one, guys, where pulsing equally forward would be something we don't really work on too often, but we need to know what it is. So if we can think forward with pulse, forward with pulse, forward with pulse, then we can understand what is backwards in our pulse, back in our pulse, back in our pulse. Now, when I do this, there might be a little bit of residual change or adjustment in the weight transfer underneath your feet. Totally normal, but if you can, get in your anchor position. This is going to be more the position most of you will use in this space.
Kyle, question.
Yeah.
Shoulder action from Grace.
Okay,
so for
Grace.
The shoulder action, is that starting from your center or is it all back muscles?
So Sarah mentioned
Shoulder.
one action that she was saying. So Grace, this is for you. So one thing that Sarah was mentioning was that there was some movement in the shoulder blade. I don't isolate my shoulder away from my core like Sarah does. I feel like the rotational pulse structure will stem from my core movement. And when I'm rotating, if you can, Kyler, go overhead for one more time for me, bud. So from overhead, if I was going to move this into the back action, I would feel that my back kind of engages to pull my shoulder back, but then it relaxes to the recovery back to neutral. If I'm going forward for my pulse, I would feel that the pec or the front side of my shoulder is the part that has some of the energy that's throwing it forward. Now, if I were to think of myself as having a pull right down the center of my body, and if I rotated my right side, my left side goes back, that would mean that I'm now equally pushing right forward, left back. I don't want to do that when I'm trying to isolate. Yeah, I'm not trying to do that to isolate the action. I'm trying to show, go overhead one more time, buddy.
That is a great way to actually use to receive length when your follower's moving back. But right now when we're talking about pulse in the body and isolating it, yeah?
So you might want to think of moving that hinge from the center of your body over to the opposite side of the pulsing side. So if I'm thinking I'm pulsing with my right side, and I want to take this action and I want to give it forward, if I do it from the hinge in the center of my body, my left side would end up going backwards. I don't want to think that way. I want to think of the right side of my body being the part that's pulsing. So if it has more movement than the left side, that's okay. So I'm thinking that my hinge might move over to the left side of my body so my right side can come forward as the pulsing point.
And from a follower's perspective, I would say that my center placement is more about managing the connection of distance of leverage and compression. When it comes to the isolation of pulsing, I will isolate that if I'm not wanting to affect my leader's guidance of momentum and direction. If I was dancing solo or I was moving, say, through a pattern and I wasn't being received or sent, then I could then implement my center movement a little bit more. So because I'm thinking as a West Coast swing dancer first or a partner dancer first, follower position, I'm always going to think about how my dancing is going to affect the role of the following first. So when I start to play with the center placement, I feel like that's such a variable based upon my leader that if I can learn to pulse in isolation, I can choose when to add that into my center movement. I hope that helps.
Yeah, and not reiterating, but adding to that, I find that once we touch, now it's a whole different game. Individual movement is one thing, but how I have to get information to my follow can change drastically relative to what I'm feeling. So if we're thinking within our individual movement first and we can isolate for a second, say you're with a really new dancer and you don't want what you're feeling from the music to really affect the person on the other side, being able to isolate your own movement on this side would make it good. So as I'm holding this here, I might be able to feel the pulse in my body, But Sarah's not going to get that information on her side over
Or
there.
vice versa, I may be dancing with the new leader that's just working on keeping fundamental timing while leading, but I still want to be able to engage in dance. So I may isolate the center part of my body. Let me flip around this way. I may isolate this part for my leader while I pulse that left side. Yeah?
Totally normal, because there's times when you
Which is
want...
exactly what we're going to go into, Grace. Look at her serving it up.
There are a lot of times that you're going to want to manage or minimize how much is going through the connections, because you can always let more through, right? So if we can, be very aware of, once we get into partnership movement, how that's going to affect the person on the other side. Yeah? All right, so now we've got our vertical, we've got our rotational, we've got our linear from the top, okay? So we've got forward and we've got back. Now we need to think hips. Hips forward, that's a weird one. I'm not even going to go into it.
It's all in the hips. Happy Gilmore. Hopefully you've seen that movie. If you haven't,
but I would say,
time.
To get an understanding of this, we have to understand how when we pull our tail back behind us, there's a recovery or an adjustment to the counterbalance of the top of our body. So if we can, let's think of pulling the tail away, then recover, away to recover, and away to recover. And what does that look like? Oh my goodness, 5 and 6, 1. That would be a hitch pulse structure. So that would start us into creating a slight delay to bring our follower with us, or a slight delay to resist coming forward.
So what we're going to do is we're going to backtrack a little bit. We're going to walk the pulse again from the top. We're going to walk the weight changes. We're going to pulse our shoulders forward and back. And then we're going to be putting this into a fun little drill for you to practice. We know we're getting tight on time, so we want to make sure we get to walk that too.
All right, so one more time. We've got our pulsing in the lower half of the body with the knee first. So weights on the left side. We're going to pulse the right knee for pulse, recover, pulse, recover, pulse, recover, pulse, recover, pulse,
Couple
recover.
check points that you're not collapsing that hip, that you're not pushing down before up, that you're relaxing this foot.
And
yeah?
you're not stopping that motion. You're not stopping it by
Can
engaging...
you go to footwork view, Kai?
By engaging the quad. So if you engage the quad when doing that, it's going to lock for a second, and then the recovery is going to be like a quick little release. And what we want is we want that to be of a bounce, a bounce, a bounce, and a bounce. And I remember when I first learned this, when I was first starting to work on this kind of stuff, or work on footwork stuff, I would find myself locking myself into place. And it's completely normal. Just get to where you can find where you just stretch against the muscle versus ending the muscle. Yeah? One more time, left side. So weights on the right foot, we're going to pulse the left side. We're going to go pulse, 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 pulse. Now we've got our rotational. Do what?
The steps are messing with the noise, so I keep trying to. Go ahead.
Okay. Rotational, we're going to think forward with the shoulder, right shoulder forward first. Forward pulse, forward pulse, forward pulse, forward pulse. Let's go back right shoulder. Back pulse, back pulse, back pulse, back pulse. Left side now. We're going left forward, and stop. Going back, 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 and stop.
As you can hear, there's a siren in our neighborhood. They can. You just got to read the feed. There's a siren in the neighborhood. Oh, and it's left. Everything's good. All right, moving on, we're actually going to get you dancing now. Yes, let's do it. So putting this rotation other than just in the shoulder and the step pulse, yeah, learning how to do that properly, we're going to put it into drill motion now for you. Yes?
Okay, so if you do have a partner, go ahead and grab that person. If you don't, you can just do the imaginary. You hook yourself onto a handle.
First, we're going to walk it, not touching, so for the solos to know what to practice this week, yeah?
So one of the things that we have to do is being able to pull that energy away from yourself. Leaders is I'm going to put my right foot behind my left foot right now like it's my anchor foot. Followers left behind right. From here, when I want to pulse away from my follower, I don't do this from the top of my body. This would be a bad way to create that connection energy or the pulse within the partnership. I'm going to think of the lower half of the body being the piece that moves away from my follower to accept the stretch. So we're going to think away, recover, and away to recover. Yes?
So, most of you have walked this 1,000 times already in the workshop. You should be full understanding of what this motion is. So, as we're doing this right here, this away and recover, make sure that you're not compressing again. Yes, followers, I'm going to walk you through our drill first. Kyle's going to get a glass of water. He needs it, yes? So, followers, coming first to the screen with me. We're on our left foot. We're going to pulse back just a little bit, not by compressing, but by just pulsing that right leg. Yes, we're gonna pulse back for 1. You're gonna come forward for 2. We're gonna pulse back with our right shoulder as we're pulsing that right knee for 3. You're gonna drive off this left foot to step on your 4. You're gonna pulse this 5, and anchor your 6. Yes? Let's try it again with me. We're gonna pulse back. 1. You're gonna come forward. And 2. You're gonna rotate. Now this is the part we were talking about, keeping that center line in place, followers, as you rotate that back side. Yeah? So come again with me. We're gonna hitch back. 1 and 2. You're gonna hitch away. 3, 4. Here's your hitch as you pull your left shoulder back. Now this time, I actually want you to draw that center back as you pulse, and anchor. Cool? Let's do it one more time together, and we'll let the leaders come out and start theirs. We're gonna go 1 and 2. We're gonna keep compressed. I'm still aligned my left side on my left track, my center line to my partner, so that I'm just pulsing back, isolating the right side like we talked about. Here we go. 1 and 2. Right side. 3. Draw back. 4. Pulse the left side back. 5 and anchor. Awesome. Here comes your leader with your first pulsing drill. Here we go. Kyle, come on out. There you go.
All right, so leaders, our turn. Our goal in this is to set our sugar push for the follows. We're going to do our anchor with the hitch finishing it. So we're going to think 5 and finish into the 6. This has a slower weight transfer back over time to hold on to the 1. We're going to recover for the and 2. So the pulse happens on the 1. Recover from knee pulse to vertical pulse. That's going to have a soft drop here. So when we talk about movement of pulse structure, we're not going to think of only knee pulse for 1 second, and that's all we do for the basic. We think knee pulse to recover, vertical pulse. Then we're going to think rotational pulse as our follower comes in for compression. And that rotation is what's going to give our acceptance of the compression from 3. From here, we're going to rotate away from that motion for 4. So we've got a forward on 3, a reverse open on 4, and then we're going to knee pulse and then linear. Knee pulse and then linear action is going to set up for 6, recovering back to 1. All right, so let's go super slow with me. We're going to think anchor first, 5 and 6. So as we're rolling into the 6, we push that back into the knee pulse for 1, knee pulse for 1, recover for vertical and 2 has a vertical pulse to it. From here, as we rotate left shoulder forward to compress into the rotational pulse for 3. We're going to counter back left shoulder to reverse the action and pulse 4. From here, we're going to anchor and pulse with the tap step for 5, recover forward, and let it come down into the 6. Now, as we hit 6, it has an ability to be almost prepped to set up the next rotation, because we're going to do the same thing again for 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 has that vertical again, has that vertical as it comes off the edge, depending on where your partner's going. Because if my partner was heading away from me, I might have to go away faster. But if they're close to me, I can kind of take some of that energy up and away. So let's find where that feels with our basic first. One more time, leaders. Anchor with the right side of the body, 5 and 6. Hitch with the left side, 1. There's our knee pulse. Recover vertical and 2 has a soft vertical pulse. We're going to rotate as we tap into the 3. 3, we're going to recover rotationally back. 4, we're going to anchor vertical 5 and linear 6.
I love how we get to take every week, you guys, we don't overload you. We're going to take this time to really get solid foundations for everybody. If you'll just work on this simple drill while you're doing the dishes, while you're getting ready, it's something that you can practice that will seep into your West Coast swing. The more times you can mindlessly set a goal, push play, and start to work on it while doing other things, you are training in a great way. You're training yourself to react and to be able to relax. Cool? We're going to put this together. There's a good group of you right now walking this with us. Thank you.
Yeah. So we do offer this in our toolbox area of our site. It goes into much deeper detail, and it's in 2 different levels. We're showing you the level 1 of this within simplicity, also within the partnership. But ultimately, just to give you a kind of a heads up of where this goes, when we think of dancing this, we think of linear, rotational, vertical to linear. And so there's all these ways of, yeah, absolutely. So we can think linear, rotational, linear is how we keep adding. So we're trying to pulse through the body in different phases.
And it really helps me as a follower when you're clear about the way that you're pulsing. I think many times we get this music with so many different textures and so many different layers. It's like a kid in the candy store. You're like, I want some of this, and I want some of this, and I want some of this. And then you really, everything just tastes like mixed together. You're not appreciating each flavor. And so it's great as a follower when I can tell which part of the pulse that you're using. And sometimes people go a little crazy with the pulsing in all different directions, and it's hard to narrow down as a follower which one I'm supposed to indulge in.
So be really careful, especially from the leader's perspective, that we don't look too busy, because then our followers don't know where to follow. Where what we just did just now was something simple that Sarah could follow, because the length of this was away. And then from there, it navigated to a natural movement that we're kind of used to. So that rotational is really pretty easy to jump into.
And by having that recovery period, it gives you a second to both kind of feel which way you're maybe feeling that pulse. So now you start to get to explore moving through pulse together, which is so ooey gooey to the right kind of music. So be mindful of the way you're practicing your pulse. Let's walk through it together, and then we'll make sure to take a couple questions towards the end if you're up doing this with us right now and not able to type. Yeah?
All right, so one more time. Do you want it together, or do you want it...
I think we should do it separate first and then together.
Do you want it separate the pattern that we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here we go. So we're going to think linear first by taking the tail away from each other. So we think pulse. Now we're going to have one that's away from each other. It's going to go to vertical on 2. So and 2, think of recovering up. And 2. Now from here we're going to rotate. Leaders, you're going to push your left shoulder forward into the connection for 3. 3. You're going to pull the left shoulder back, leaders,
Right,
and you're going to lift up on 4. 4. So we've almost blended a couple there. So we blended rotational and lift. From here we're going to pulse knee for 5, which is kind of a vertical pulse, and we're going to go linear on 6. 6, it's linear is the prep forward before we go linear away for 1. Yeah, let's go again. Without the partnership, we're going to think away, weights on the right foot, leaders.
We're doing our 1 and 2, yes?
Hitch first, go linear to vertical, rotational to vertical, vertical to linear.
We'll do it facing, yeah?
Each other?
Yeah.
Do you want to touch?
You can't touch me yet.
You can't touch you yet? Okay. Jeez, this is going to be a long day.
If you want to go overhead sideways, Kai, that would be great.
All right, so here we got natural handhold, but don't touch yet. We're going to think linear, vertical, rotational, rotational, vertical, vertical.
You said linear before, just so you know.
Linear.
I didn't want to correct you.
Oh, what did I do
But
wrong?
it's really great. Sometimes if you just wait, they fix themselves. Before you're like, horizontal, horizontal. I'm like, dude, I'm stepping onto my 4. I'm pulsing my 5. This is horizontal. This is linear.
Vertical.
Vertical.
Horizontal. Even she did it.
This is the problem with live. I can't like cut and be like, we didn't say that right. Film it again. We're still not perfect on our website. To be honest with you, when we're filming most of these videos that you're going to find on our website, it's at like, they're like at midnight. So by that time, we've put the kids down to bed. We've like eaten dinner, cleaned the kitchen, and now we're like in the garage working. So we're kind of funny. I mean, we think we are. You may not.
Yeah, one of
Go figure it out.
One of the segments on Swing Soup is 2 drinks in.
Yeah, no,
So.
I cannot wait for you guys to see what we have planned for Swing Soup. That's on that YouTube channel. Hopefully you're watching from there.
If you haven't had a chance, just so you guys can get the warnings when we're up, and the warnings, what are they called?
Subscribe to our channel. He's tripping over his words over here. They'll
What's
set
that called?
alerts.
Alerts! That's what it's called.
Alert.
It sets the alert for you so you know when we're going to be on.
Let's walk this one more time together. Pulsing. Let's go.
All right, here we go. So we've got our linear,
1 and 2.
vertical,
Here's our pulse back forward.
rotational, vertical, vertical, linear.
Oh.
Again, last time, it is linear, vertical, rotational, linear, vertical, linear, and we are done. Thank you for joining us for our West Coast Wednesdays. Remember, we are here every week.
Every Wednesday. If you want more, until we get to see you in person, we are working really hard on our membership program on our website. We're also doing some other really cool things. Every single Wednesday for this tune-up, you can drop in for $10. Again, if you are strapped for cash and you want to be a part of this program, we are looking for people to help us spread the word and promote everything that we're doing so we can continue to teach West Coast Swing until we can get next to you guys. Kyle and I have been working on a lot new choreography between us, which is causing us to come up with new movement. And we're excited to share it. We're going to be teaching on our website. Sunday, join us for the last summit of the year at Art Dance. Make sure to check that out and register.
Jung, that's right. It's called Notifications. Thank
That's
you.
it. Make sure that you're following us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And, thank you already for just watching us today and tuning in. Your love, your support, you just clicking on and your comments really, really do help us and keep us going. We are now on our way to a little family getaway, and we love you guys, and we miss you terribly, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Also, if these times work for you, this 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I know it'd be way better for Andreas, who is in Germany.
So any of you can message us. We will be moving these lives periodically so that people who are in different time zones, we want to be really sensitive to all the people.
But if we can find one that works for everybody, I think, especially those of us that are at home working during this time, let us know what times work, and we will we'll adapt.
We love you guys. Thank you, Andreas, Casper, Kyler, the producer, and to you for keeping our dance alive.
Thanks for showing up, guys.
Bye, guys.